Welcome back. I hope that you guys enjoyed the game. I hope it helped clear some things up maybe and made you feel a little smarter. So now you're going to talk about plot. So I waited to do plot because it usually takes a little bit more time just because it's a lot bigger and it takes more time to learn and to teach about it. So what is a plot? You guys probably already know what a plot is and you don't even realize it. So a plot is just mostly what happens in a story. It is the beginning to end. It is the storyline of all the things that happen, good and bad. So, and usually plots aren't always in one thing, one straight line. It can look like a mountain peak where it just goes up and down, but you're always going to have one highest point. Does that make sense? One biggest action. So altogether though, this is what makes a good story a good story. So with that being said, there are 5 parts to the plot. So you have beginning, and that is when it introduces all the characters and the setting, and it's going to talk about the potential conflicts or the potential problems that come up. And sometimes it doesn't say outright what it is, but it implies. So it's also called foreshadowing. So that just means that it secretly kind of tells you what it's going to be. And then you have number 2, which is building action. Building action just means this is more and more things happen, more and more problems happen, and you know more information now. This is like the learning curve of the story. This is when more things are added into the story, more characters are added, and this is just the chunk of the story, all right? So climax. Climax is just the most important thing. This is what I mentioned just a little bit ago about, like just now, about the one biggest thing that happens. That's the climax. That is when the biggest conflict happens. So for example, in the presentation, it says the most action, drama, change, and excitement occurs here. So this is just when everything happens. And so a climax, so you have the beginning and you have the end. Well, a climax is never usually in the middle. It's usually more towards the end, just because it gives way to more things being told in the story. So that is the building action. And the building action just climbs and climbs and climbs and climbs, and then it's going to tell you more information, and then you get to the climax. And that is when you know all the information you could know. And that's when the characters start fighting or something happens. And then you have falling action. So a falling action is just as the story starts to slow down and it starts, closing all the open books in the sense of like anything that you're unsure about. This is usually when it's going to start addressing that, because that's what means the story is going to end soon. So then it ends with a resolution, big number 5. So a resolution just means that this story is coming to an end. It is when they close the book and you should not have any more questions. But it is possible, sometimes if there's 2 or 3 books within one series, it is possible that some of the books don't answer all those questions. So then you have to go to the next book and then the next book. So for example, Harry Potter has, I think, 7 books. So all of them have different endings. None of them close perfectly, okay? And usually the plots aren't in a straight line, like I said. It is like mountain peaks. It can rise and fall, but the highest peak, again, is the climax. And the beginning and the resolution should always be the same, in the sense of it should always close. It opens and closes. So with that being said, we are going to do a small Google form, and that's just I'm going to ask you to tell me the story or rather the plot and the setting and the theme of your favorite book, movie, or show. So if we go back to this slide that talks about the climate or the plot. So we could talk about Aladdin, right? So Aladdin in the beginning, that's when he introduces himself as Aladdin. That's when you see Aladdin, and that's when you meet Jasmine, and that's when you meet all the other characters. Building action is as he starts to become more like the prince, right? So he becomes more and more famous. He pretends to put on this princeliness. He pretends that he's all fantastic, right? So then the climax is whenever he thinks so selfishly of himself. And that is when everything starts going downhill. That's when he loses the genie, right? That's when he loses the magic lamp. So then that all happens where he gets sent to the cold and he has to find his way back. And then the falling action is as it starts to wrap up, right? So that is when Genie turns into a human, and then all that type of stuff where it's not as important, but it's important, but just not as important. And then the resolution. The resolution is more or less when they get married and it's all happy at the end, right? So that, for example, is the plot of Aladdin. So you're going to take that idea and you're going to apply it in this Google form. And you're going to tell me, just choose whatever book, movie, show, anything. Choose your favorite one. Tell me what it is so I know, okay? This is going to help me know how much you learned from this, all right? And then if you have time, there's another Kahoot, but that is up to Miss Barker, all right? So yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for participating. And I hope you guys enjoyed it, had fun, learned a little bit. So yeah, bye. Hmm. Da, da, da.